Dean, hope you're having a good week. Thanks for your questions, and I've just made a little video here to give you a little bit of feedback. Hopefully this is a helpful format for you. I will email you these documents so that you can look over this a little bit more carefully later, but you did a very good job on this assignment so far. I can tell you're doing a lot of heavy lifting and really thinking critically about this work, so great job there. You listed that the theoretical framework is frailty of older population in municipal care. And I would like to say that this is more of a sampling frame. So a sampling frame is a list of items or people that you're going to study. So in this study, we're going to study 80-year-olds in municipal care. And so this is the sampling frame that the study is focused upon. The theoretical framework is the scaffolding or the structure that can hold and support the theory or theories of the entire research study. So you can think of the theoretical framework as kind of the coat hanger to the theory. It supports the theory. Or you can even, in my other way of looking at it, is like it's the umbrella. So it kind of covers and supports, like the umbrella is the theory itself, the bucket part of the umbrella, but then all the spokes could be what hold the umbrella open. So the umbrella is opened by the spokes, held open by the spokes, and those spokes can lead to the constructs and the concepts, which then can be tested using variables in the methods section, and then the results that lead back to supporting the theory. So let's see, you said that the main concepts in this article are falls prevention. I think that it was more the number of falls, but that's basically the same thing, I guess. I feel like falls prevention is more about the intervention itself, where number of falls was the concept of the theory. And then malnutrition and pressure ulcer. So that's all good. You put environment, even though that's not explicitly stated, it could be implied. I would think that this one relates more to the main concept, though, of number of falls. So environmental causes, for example. So that could maybe fall under a number of falls. But it could also be argued possibly that environment is a main concept that directly contributes to increased or decreased frailty. Other concepts that weren't mentioned as well that could be part of this theoretical framework might be psychological or mental health, for example. And then you put nursing home, you put home-based nursing and nursing home as a concept, but this is really the setting where the research may be done. And in this study, the researchers focused on the setting of the nursing homes, but other research studies could possibly compare the SA intervention in each setting. And then you put healthcare workers, where this is really the participants of the study, not a concept, but who they focused upon were the participants of the study. This is the so that you have the healthcare workers, and then you put preventative care process. And I would call this more about like the intervention of the study. This is what was done to test out the variables and the concepts and support the theory. So this is the intervention, and it's within the methods section. And then, let's see, you put that these are important concepts because theories can be derived from them, which is true. That would be considered an inductive approach when theories are derived from concepts. But you could also do deductive approaches, which is where you could also use the concepts and constructs as a way to find certain variables that could be operationalized and measured, and then add evidence to an existing theory. So inductive is theory building, and deductive is theory testing. Either way would work. And then here you said, I think the gaps in the research include home-based nursing. So a gap in the research should always be stated in the Lit Review intro section, just before, I think, the methods section typically. And what it is that it forms the basis or the rationalization for doing the study. It is what the researchers state that has yet to be understood on the topic, and the study presented would hope to fill that gap more. So a research gap is a good thing. It's basically what happens is after you have done a wide search of the literature, you've studied the topic immensely, and you start to realize that all of this has been stated about this topic. All these types of studies have shown these types of outcomes, and you know X, Y, and Z about the study, but there's still a gap. There's something that hasn't been studied yet in this area. And once you identify that gap, it's kind of like a eureka moment, because this is where we drive research forward, is by identifying a gap which is something that is yet to be understood about the topic, and then we hone in on that to hopefully explain that area that's still unknown. So hopefully that helps you understand the gap in the literature a little bit better. Let's see. So the researchers mentioned that nursing homes include frailer people. I would focus on the nursing homes and the frailest to simplify things. So in this study, they actually did focus on nursing homes. And in the very first paragraph, I guess, couple of sentences, they open up by stating that the frailest of older adults are in nursing homes. Therefore, the setting that they wanted to focus on is, instead of home help or home health care, was nursing homes, because this is where frailty is most common. And their whole study is about how can we improve frailty. So, of course, it made sense for them to study the nursing home older adults. And then you said that this was a gap. Furthermore, the researchers are only focusing on municipal level. In a future study, I would assess and analyze the municipal level healthcare providers from the hospital healthcare providers and their opinions of the registry or the senior alert. And I want to tell you that this is probably more like a limitation of the current study, but not a gap in research. So what are gaps and what are limitations? So as we said, the gap is the area of study that was previously identified before this research study even occurred, and it's the reason for this research study. It's the reason why is because the gap is that we don't understand something about, a certain topic, and therefore we are going to set out to get funding, and then we're going to implement a new research study to find out more information. Where a limitation is really some sort of a flaw with the study. And no study is ever perfect, so most researchers, if they are being diligent, will report their limitations. That could be that their sample size was too small to really get, a certain power to the study. It could be that their sample wasn't diverse enough, it wasn't heterogeneous enough, or it could be something like a methodological design flaw. But limitations are basically the researchers' way of alerting people who would possibly repeat the study for reliability reasons that, hey, these are the things we ran into as issues. If the study were to be repeated, we would recommend a larger sample size, a more diverse sample selection. We would recommend to test our intervention in both home health settings and in nursing homes to compare the differences of our intervention, something like this. That would be the limitation section. So I wrote a little bit more here. You can go through this, and if you have any questions, let me know. I did also annotate your article just to show you where I picked things out. So home health services is a setting, institutional care is a setting. I teased the theory out just by extrapolating it from this data and found out, and I kind of reverse engineered it where I thought, okay, they are trying to figure out a way to improve frailty. So therefore, if you think backwards, then the theory could be something like frailty can be delayed or even prevented, because why would they try to improve frailty risk factors if they didn't think it would do any good? So the theory is reverse engineered in that sense. So if you can't find the theory or it's not explicitly stated, you can kind of think about what are they trying to do in the study and then work your way backwards to a theory. And then the whole theoretical framework would encompass the theory. It's kind of the coat hanger for the theory. It supports theory using concepts and constructs listed here, which you listed were malnutrition, pressure ulcers, and falls. And then we can derive some kind of variables that we could operationalize, and our results can add and support to our theory. So they can add support to our theory. So, for example, you did ask, how do you know what is a concept or a construct, and how do you know what is a variable? Well, it's a very good question, because concepts and constructs are very abstract, and they're not really what we study per se. They're just where we get areas of the theory that could be studied. So malnutrition is an area of the theory. It's a concept of the theory of frailty, right? So frailty has certain concepts attached to it, like malnutrition, increased falls, skin breakdown, probably other concepts that you could think of that contribute to frailty. Like we mentioned, maybe mental health issues or, sedentarism, something like this. But so these are the concepts, but then they need to be put into a variable form. So a variable, as you will recall when you were writing your hypotheses and research questions, could be something like high protein diet versus maybe low protein diet. And, so how do you operationalize high protein diet? Because you can't just get like a numerical value. You have to say something like, measured in grams. So that's how you'd operationalize that. So like you do a hypothesis like those who consume 80 grams or more a day of protein have faster skin wound healing times than those who consume 40 grams or less of protein per day. So that's how you operationalize variables. And variables vary, which means that they are usually typically used in quantitative research where you're going to get a number value, like faster, like healing time might be, on average, they healed 80% faster, or maybe days where like they healed in 5 days instead of 10 days or something like this. So that's like a variable. It tends to vary. Where in qualitative research, you would talk about categories and describe experiences that people have had or the meaning of having a wound ulcer or something like that. So hopefully that helps you to kind of understand theory and theoretical framework, which is the coat hanger to the theory. And then, let's see, these are the participants like I identified earlier. So those are the participants of the study. And then this is where you're going to find the gap. So it's typically right before the methods section. And I just want you to look at the wording here because it's almost always universally somewhat the same type of wording. So they'll say something like, let's see, they said, where did this come from? Okay, it is important to investigate whether a systematic and structured workflow can facilitate care providers to improve care quality by making better clinical assessments, performing team-based planned interventions, and learning from the results. Now, this is where they're getting to the gap. Others have described the implementation process of SA at hospital level, but here's the gap. To our knowledge, and this is how it's almost always worded, to our knowledge, no previous studies, blah, 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 blah. That's how you know where the gap is, because they're saying, all of this has been done, all of this is known, but to our knowledge, and they always say to our knowledge because it's like their way of like saving their butts in case it's actually that they didn't find a gap, because that sometimes happens, right? But they've done an extensive literature review, and from what they can find, there's been nothing done like what they're about to do. Okay, so that's where you'd find the gap. And then we go into the design, and you know the rest of this probably. I didn't annotate all of this, but I will send this to you. Let's see. If you want a more of a conceptual picture of this, I have diagrammed it out for you like this, and I can send this to you as well. Let's see if I can make that bigger. Okay, so, oh, that's a little too big. Oh, there's probably a way to do this easier. Okay, the struggle is real. Okay, so just kind of imagine this conceptually. Here you have your theoretical framework, and it kind of is encompassing your theory, your concepts or constructs, the methods that you're going to use, and the interventions, and then the results. So I like this kind of umbrella type conceptual design because an umbrella is basically holding the theory together through these spokes, right? So there's spokes in the umbrella, and the spokes make the umbrella pop out, and those spokes lead to the concepts like malnutrition, pressure ulcers, number of falls, things like that. And then from that, you can see that you can test these concepts by different methods. Like you could use the screening senior alert system, but then I thought about, well, there's probably other ways to test the concept of malnutrition, like through a different type of intervention, a nutrition intervention, like maybe the one I mentioned earlier, like 80 grams versus 40 grams of protein. But then you can also have pressure ulcers, and then in this study they used screening senior alert as their intervention, but there could be other skincare techniques that might be used to address this concept. And then falls, again, they use the screening senior alert system, but other types of interventions might be used, like gait balance, strength, or even cardiovascular and neurological assessments. And then maybe there's other constructs you can think of, or concepts that you can think of that would hold this theory together, and different types of methods and tests that can be done. But the results are all going to basically circle back to supporting the theory. So, for example, in this study, did the screening senior alert intervention actually go back and support that, yes, this did have an impact on frailty risk factors. That's what you can think of for that. So hopefully, I don't know if this was helpful to you or not, but let me know if you have any other questions, and I'd be happy to talk to you more. Okay, have a good day.